What do? What do?
Good evening, folks, and welcome. My name is Benjamin. Thank you for joining me. This is Radio Fremantle in conjunction with, shall we call it, Radio AH, Abundant Hope. Fantastic website with a lot of great information, part of an organization in which I am a part and proud to say it. Thank you for joining us again on this program. I have a very, very special guest with us again this week, all the way from New Jersey in the United States of America. It is Rubens who will be joining us this evening for our 2-hour interview session. Rubens, are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
Wonderful.
And you hear me the same?
Yes, absolutely loud and clear. Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me, Rubens. Thank you for spending the time.
My pleasure.
Okay, so now I have had very much pleasure and honor to be able to interview over the last few weeks some fascinating individuals, fascinating people for many reasons, but the underlying theme of the people that I've interviewed for the largest part have been their commitment and their work towards bringing about a greater awareness and understanding of the time that we're living in and the meaning which it holds for us, not only as the human race, but as spiritual beings, which is a large part of ourselves, which is very much forgotten to the largest degree. And obviously, in a physical manifestation, we're seeing incredible events all around us, exhibited geophysically, economically, culturally, our societies, our financial systems. I mean, the list is quite dramatic. And as well as that, we're getting this incredible energetic shift, which is symptomatic in so many ways. And I was so thrilled that you agreed to come onto the program tonight, because we've known each other for a little while now, but I only recently became aware of your Chronicles series, the video series that was that yourself and another colleague of yours, Kitro, authored and put onto the internet. Had some fascinating things to say, and I wanted to start first, if I can, Rubens, to basically ask about this Chronicles series, which was basically, well, can you tell me basically what the Chronicles series is, and talk a bit about why you decided to create them in the first place?
Sure. Well, the Chronicles are actually not my idea. They are from the unseen ones, which most of us call the celestials. I don't know if I should introduce myself in such a way that people would understand why I'm talking about celestial or unseen ones. Should I do that first?
Well, yeah. I mean, in conjunction, as you say, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about the celestials as we lead into to the interview. But from your point of view, you became involved with this Chronicles series, and what is it that you hope to accomplish with this series?
Well, the hope for the Chronicles is actually in conjunction with what they call the teaching mission, the teaching period. As since now, men as a whole, all of us, are at a stage where we do not understand the relationship between our lives here on this planet called Earth and the spiritual repercussion of those who are involved in allowing the humans on this planet to have a sense of their own identity and what they are about, what their role is in creation as a whole. So the Chronicles is one of the means that we utilize in order to bring information to the public, to our brothers and sisters of this planet, in order to make them understand what their current situation and where they should head towards. It is, in a sense, an extension of previous works that have been undertaken by many others who have come to this planet.
So I'd like to ask you then, Rubens, as I mentioned in the intro, which I hope you did hear, was about this incredible time of change and the incredible things going on around us, not only in our physical world, which you're obviously well aware of, but also in a spiritual world. And I find that the topics that you broach in this series that you started, called The Chronicles, start to delve into the less noticed, more difficult to define aspects that we really need to grasp onto and start to understand as well. So talk to me about, now you mentioned that the celestial, you had celestial help in deciding to go into these chronicles and to speak about what you were speaking about. Maybe this is a moment to introduce that idea for those of us who are not so familiar with it. Now, can you introduce, please, for your part, what is this celestial connection with the Chronicles?
Well, the celestial connection is as it states itself, those are entities or beings that are not physically viewable by us, but nonetheless they are physical and they have a presence, a physical presence, I should say. They are trying to communicate to the populace and share information with them that is extremely critical at this point, so that we can move through the evolutionary ladder. Men, as it stands right now, do not understand what their life is about, what they are. They don't even know their identity. And we have reached a point in time when it is necessary for the information to come through, to manifest in this realm, in this world, so that people can take steps towards moving along and actually moving upward in that sense, spiritually speaking, that is.
And you mentioned as well that this is the time for that. It is the time for the teaching. It's the time for this information to come to light. Can you talk about this time that you're mentioning? What time is it? What time are you suggesting it is?
It is time for us to become different. It is time that we start connecting with our spiritual roots. That is an extreme part of our lives. In essence, we are spiritual beings living in a physical, material world. But most people do not understand that. They believe that their life is a material one, and all their quest in this life is about material gain, material accumulation, and things of that sort. And it is completely wrong if we continue on that path, which is a path of a downward descent toward a very dark abyss. And we ought to change that particular perception so we can start moving upward, ascending instead. There are many occurrences that are taking place not only on this planet, but in our local universe as a whole. And there are groups of intelligent beings that are here to establish communication with us, so we can move towards that ascending path, which I just mentioned.
Well, I mean, I can definitely identify with what you're saying for the most part, even in as much as just some of the people that I've had on the program have mentioned a similar idea, and this suggestion that now is the time to start making the connection of mankind with its higher spiritual self, not just its material, more well, easily to define for most of us, the material self, which also we do inhabit these bodies, we do live in this world. Um, how is it that you see the Celestials plan to do that? Is it just through people like yourself who are making contact to the Celestials and passing on these messages? Is there other ways that the Celestials can connect with people, with ourselves, rather than just through, well, for instance, people like yourself? Can it be a much more personal experience?
Well, it is a completely personal experience. However, being personal doesn't mean that it doesn't have a universal repercussion. It would be ideal for each person on Earth to connect with themselves. However, it is much easier said than done. Most people do not even understand the notion of establishing contact with the angelic world. Even less to understand that they will make contact with those who are who exist on the plane of existence along with the angels. They are others that they can communicate with. They are others who are off-world. They are others who are from an ancient time who have come back here to assist. There are many things that is still unknown by mankind, hence the reason why they cannot even establish any contact themselves. That would have been the ideal thing to do. However, most of the populace do not even acknowledge the existence of the so-called celestials that I just mentioned. They believe that they are, most of them, some of them believe that they are angels. However, they believe that these angels, or those angels, were communicating with the ones in the old time. They don't really see the relationship with the current time that we're living in. To them, it's completely they are completely oblivious to the idea of establishing contact currently with the angelic world. So we are at an impasse where we have to make them understand that these angelic beings, those celestials that I'm referring to, have been there guiding us all along in the past, and are still here in the present, and will be still here in the future, and that we can communicate with them effectively. It is extremely difficult, almost impossible, to make them understand that relationship, because most of them believe that communication with the spiritual world is established through the churches, and that is completely a false idea. The church is just the building that people go to. There are mass there to communicate among themselves, and that is not necessarily a place where you can communicate with the angelic world, or the unseen ones, or even with God. They do not understand that as of yet. So most of us who are here, who understand that, are having difficulty in making them understand that communication is being done as we speak, and that they ought to find a way to tune themselves into that particular kind of communication so they can receive information that is extremely critical, important to their lives currently.
Right, right. Now, I mean, you talk about a subject that's, it's difficult, as you mentioned, for a lot of people to digest this type of information. It's very much, for the most part, it's outside a lot of people's experience. Now, when we spoke the other day before the interview, you were mentioning as well your background. Now, you're from Haiti. We call it Haiti over here, and you did help me with the pronunciation. Haiti, I believe, is the more traditional form of the word. Over there, in the is it part of can you describe exactly where Haiti is first, for those of the listeners who don't know where it is?
Haiti is an island in the Greater Antilles. It's in Central America itself, It's between Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico.
Right.
It's currently shared by two different groups. They have split the island in two. On the western side, you have the Republic of Haiti, and on the eastern side, you have the Dominican Republic. However, having said that, we have to go back further and go to the original time when that island was itself called by the indigenous people themselves, the Tainos. It was called Haiti, which in their language means a land of high mountains.
Okay, right, and because it's interesting to me. Like I said, this is information that's difficult to digest for a lot of people who are, say, based in the United States or Australia or you say the United Kingdom. These heavily westernized, modernized, technically more advanced countries who have, in many ways, in many factors, they've moved away from a spiritual or more esoteric side of their existence, and yet through the entire, even if you take some of the largest religions of the world, like Catholicism or Protestants or Islam or these things, we have a history even within our own cultures of in biblical senses, the God speaking to Moses, Spirit speaking to man, wisdom handed down from angelic beings, all through books of our past, also in more recent times, clairvoyance, idiot savants, all these types of influences. I mean, it's gone on since, as far as we know, 2,000 years back, to say the very least. And then you come from a background, if I'm not mistaken, where there is also, even to this day, a more accepted or realized existence of this kind of spiritual entities and the possibility of celestial entities and these things that you had the direct experience of in Haiti. Is that correct?
Not quite, but let's see if I can understand the question, or let me expand on what you mean to say here, if I understand it correctly. First of all, I was born in Haiti in 1963, which makes me 49 years of age on this planet. That's where I incarnated, and I was raised there, and I was raised as a Catholic. Most of the country is, we share actually two religions. It's Vodun, which is a religion that comes from Africa, and the Catholicism that was injected upon us by the French themselves. They established a colony there. We were one of the colonies that they actually possessed, according to them. So I have received a background. My background is basically a Catholic background. Interspersed with that, I have had contact or have received some influence from the others who practice the religion of Vodun. I have never practiced that religion itself, Vodun. Not to say that it's a bad religion or anything else, but I don't either, even though I was forced somehow as a child to go to church as a Catholic. I realized growing up that it was also something that I did not find any resonance with. So as I became older, as I became of age, I stopped associating myself with Catholics. I became a purely human being living on Earth. Ever since I was 18, that's what I call myself. Whenever people ask me what religion I belong to, I always tell them that I don't have any religion, but I am a highly spiritual being. By the way, one thing I have to say about Haiti. Haiti is the only, or I should say, is the country in the Caribbean that is the most African country having a presence in the Caribbean. Most Haitians are really Africans who are living on the land of Haiti.
Right.
If you go to Haiti, you will see that the African influence is almost as purely as it can remain.
Right.
So there's an interesting mix there.
I guess what I was trying to pin down was that even though what you're telling us about this communication that you're having with celestials and the ability for celestial beings or these beings associated with our own celestial heritage, even though it's a little more uncommon or difficult to digest for people in the Western world, there are other cultures and other peoples from around the world who would find it more palatable or easier to accept the idea of communication with spirit or celestials or beings from other dimensions. I guess that's what I was pursuing, and maybe in Haiti there is more of a history of that kind of communication, or at least the quantifiable evidence to suggest that it is a reality.
Interestingly enough, in the religion Vadun, the adherents of that religion believe that they can actually communicate with spirits,
Right.
those who are in the spirit realm.
Right.
They call them Loa, which basically in the African language means spirit. So in that particular religion, they do have people who are able to communicate with the spirit world. So it is not something far-fetched for them to hear someone say that they actually can communicate with the spirits.
Right, right. That's what I was getting at. So excellent. Now, I wanna tackle this thing because I think this is something that this is going to be difficult for people to digest. And I have to say, Rubens, the way that you're speaking to me now, you talk about the fact that you incarnated there at a certain time, that you lived your life as a human being, and it began there. The way you're describing yourself is almost like you're not from this planet. Is that correct in what I'm hearing? Am I getting the right gist of what you're saying? You're speaking as if you're a visitor to this planet. Is that what you're saying?
I believe that your approach is quite correct, and I will explain that as much as I can.
No, sorry, go ahead.
When I say that I incarnated here, yes, it means that I came from somewhere else. I am not from here. Many of us are not. They are true ones who were born in the material world, but they are also ones who come from the higher spiritual world and who have come down here to bring assistance to this planet that has been suffering from many ailments. And we have to take a body here in order to be able to affect the culture, the environment itself, because without a body, we would not be able to do much. So we have taken, many of us have come here in bodies, and we have incarnated in many other countries. We're all over the world. It's an international group, if you could call us that. And I have to say to you that even though I am speaking with clear clarity about this subject, that has not been the case for most of my life. I have always been a strange one. I have not behaved like many of my other peers, and I knew there was something strange, not really strange, but different about me. But people obviously find that very strange. And that is the case of all of us who have incarnated here for that particular purpose of aiding the planet in ascending.
This is difficult. I just to clarify. I mean, this is information that can be difficult for most of us to digest. Now, can I just clarify? When you say you incarnate, means you were born into this country or born onto this planet. You were literally born as a baby, not like you possessed someone's body and took it from them.
No. We were born of woman. We came out of the womb of a woman, and we were born here like all the other children are born here.
Right, exactly. Okay, so just to clarify that, when you say you came here the same way as most of the rest of us came here in terms of being born onto this planet is what you're saying. So that's fine, just to clarify that. And when you say from another place. You mentioned a spiritual realm. That doesn't mean from another planet necessarily. You're meaning. Can you clarify exactly? Be a little bit more specific from where you're from. You're not like from Venus, or you're not like from another planet in the solar system.
My true origin is from a different sphere of existence. We can talk about in order for us to understand that which I'm making reference to, we would have to go into defining how creation took place and what creation is about and what is it made of.
Well, that we can do that. I think we'll do that maybe a little later, but just to briefly give us the overview. So it's not necessarily like you came from another planet, like an alien ship that we know in the movies, with as we're more generically aware, but you were from a kind of another realm, as you mentioned, that different dimension, different time and space, that did not necessarily just traveled here on a little rotating disc-like ship or some such. So you incarnated and you had purpose and a mission. And when you say this international group, you're talking about a big group, a small group. What type of numbers are you talking about here? How many are there?
We are talking about a few millions of people incarnated here for that purpose.
That's a lot of people.
Not really compared to the number of individuals living on this planet. We are roughly 7 billion people on this planet. And a small group of a few million, let's say, even if you were to take 100 million, 200, that's really not much. However, it is enough to somewhat to create the changes that we need to take place on this planet.
Right. Okay. Fine. So that's good. So there's maybe 200 million around there, but it's not so much when you talk about the figure of 7 or 8 billion people in the entirety of the world, and they're from similar places that you're from, and they are here to help us out at this time of great need. Is that right?
That is correct. And let me explain something, Benjamin, if I can. Do I have time to explain a few things about us living here?
By all means.
Okay, by all means and purposes, we who have come from the higher realms, we are, by all intents and purposes, humans of this realm. We incarnated, we were born here, and we have lived most of our lives not really truly knowing what our true identity is. So we were born here, we were raised, we went to school, grammar school, finished our elementary school, high school. Some of us have gone to college, some have not. And some of us have gone to the professional world, some have not. We have from different walks of life. However, there is a point in which we have to come to the realization that we were sent here, or we were sent here in order to bring about changes that are necessary to this realm. We have to we basically have to be born again to our true identity. We literally have to make tremendous effort in order to come out of the brainwashing processes that are part of this world, to really see us for who we are, to become our true selves, which is necessary for us in order for us to really make those changes that we were talking about. We are here to aid, to help the others, and in order to do that, we couldn't remain as ignorant, as unconscious as most of the populace of this earth, because people do not know what they're doing, basically, on this planet. So in order for us to truly become effective and to do an effective work on this realm, we had to somewhat awaken to ourselves. We had to regain our true identity in order for us to see this world for what it is, which is a complete mess, and many things ought to be fixed. So most of us have lived many years not knowing who we are, but at a certain point there are triggers that aid us in regaining our awareness. in order for us to do the job that we came here to do.
Okay, well, it sounds like we need a lot more help. So I'm thinking the more that incarnate here and wake up to what they need to do and help out, it's great news for me. Great news for us all. Now, you are one of these people who have awakened to their truer identity, their truer self, and have decided that you were going to embrace the mission that you came here to do and to help out. Now, what type of help? I mean, I could go on for the next 20 minutes, and beyond, just briefly going through the incredible amount of trouble we're in, and for the most part, most people are oblivious to it. What type of help do you want to come and help us out here with, Rubens? Because I like I said, I could ream off a list of things we need help in. Talk to me. What type of help do we need? What type of help? Where can we start? What can we do to start to change the terrible situation we're in?
First of all, we have to understand that this world is not a material world that ought to be confined to material pursuit. Okay. Life in itself is a spiritual life. No matter where you live, no matter what planet you're on, life is basically about spirituality. That's the essence of life. We are spiritual beings having a human experience on whatever planet we may find ourselves. Now let me clarify a few things. This is the local universe of Nebadon. Each local universe within a super universe, which ours is Orvington. All those local universes are governed by what they call a creator sun. This is the creator himself of that local universe, or people would call it God, but I'm very I don't really want to utilize that word because it has so many meanings on this planet. But let's say the creator sun himself is the God of this local universe, and there are millions upon millions of planets that he has to oversee. So that creator sun, along with his consort and the other angels and many others who are fine administrators, governors, and so on and so forth, they basically have to be about lifting up all the planets that constitute this local universe of Nebadon. Earth, which is also known as Gaia, is only one of multiple planets. We are part of the system of what they call the system of Satania. The system is basically the smallest unit that you can imagine in a local universe. It has to be approximately 1,000 inhabitable planets. Ours is not even 700. So this is a developing system of Satania, and there are many changes that ought to happen on all those planets before we can actually talk about an era of light and life. We ought to have the entire local universe come to a point where enlightenment pervades all the planet. And one of the things that we are doing here on this planet is to aid in assisting to get to that particular point. By the way, the Creator Son himself has incarnated at one point, 2,000 years ago, as the one most people call Jesus, even though it's not really the true name. But he is the one who has incarnated at that time to somewhat facilitate a change in the ascension scheme of the planet. Now, he has returned. We know what happened with the cross. Even that's another story to talk about. But he has returned on a different form, not on this planet, but he is actually on ships. Since they've been here, there are multiple beings who have been hovering above this planet or surrounding the planet for a while now, so they can bring about the changes that are necessary, as I keep repeating. They've been here for since around 1954, if I remember correctly. There are many plans, there are many techniques, there are many programs that are being utilized in order to bring this planet to a point where we can finally see a magnificent work of life taking place. So there are a variety of things that are being done. One of them is bring about a change in the DNA of the people who are here on this planet. There were assistance given at one time through the advent of Adam and Eve, but that was somewhat not successful. And now there are changes that are being made so that the program can continue, so we can bring about those changes that I've made mention many times here.
Okay. Well, I mean, so directly right now, yourself, including these others, however many million beings of celestial origin who have incarnated on the planet, are here to help in the spiritual energetic shift of the entire planet in alignment with the work that goes on in the system and the planets that are involved in that system in order to bring some kind of cohesive ascension process into being. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, that sounds pretty complex. that sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's more than that. It's a tremendous opportunity. But at the same time, it is, as you said, it's a complex issue that needs to be done. However,
now, what about? For instance, you mentioned as well, I wanted to delve into this a little bit. You've identified, in no small way, who you are and where you've come from and what you're doing here. Which I'll be completely blunt with you, Rubens. This is not easy to digest. This is not a world where you can walk around and call yourself someone from a higher spiritual plane and expect to be taken, in all seriousness. I'll be honest with you, but when you mention that this is your heritage, and then you mention that you're part of the group of people or beings who've come to help out, if that means that you're part of a group, what about the rest of us? Who are you here to help out? Who are the rest of the people that are incarnating here, if not all of them from the same place? Who are the rest that need this help?
In a sense, we could say, if we're taking the view from high on, we can call them the mortals of the race, the mortal of the realm, that is. Those are the ones who are making the ascension so that they can at one time become fused with their father fragment and go to the highest realm, which is paradise itself.
So I mean, you're introducing a whole range of concepts that we have to explain. But just briefly, then, that these mortals of the realm, as you mentioned, they're basically, they're all part of the same system. They're all beings of God, and they're all entities who have soul and spirit for the most part. But they're not, shall we say, on the same rung of the evolutionary ladder as, say, others who are of a higher stature who have come down to help. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, let's say that I describe life as a twofold process. There's a descending process and an ascending one. They're all the same. In the end, we all end up in the same place. However, there are two different processes that take place. The mortals of the realm go through many incarnations. That we use the technique of incarnation to talk about those things because it's a technique among many others that exist so that a being can learn through many lives to acquire experiences that are beneficial to him and to the others. They learn from experience how life is. The many lessons of life are learned through actually living on a planet. There's no doubt about that. Many of many religions probably would deny the existence of reincarnation. However, it is a fact. Reincarnation actually is even mentioned in the Bible, but they don't really want to recognize it for what it is. I remember Jesus was having they were asking questions of Jesus if he actually was Moses. Now, why would they ask him if he was Moses if the concept of reincarnation was unknown to them?
Yeah, yeah.
It seems to me that they actually knew that he could have incarnated from an ancient one who lived in the past. So it is mentioned in the Bible. However, those fanatics who are the religious fanatics do not want to expand their mind and understand many concepts that are facing them all the time in their face. It's right there with them, but they're in denial, and they don't want to understand it because that requires a sort of a courage, a sort of you have to be able to face the world in order to live outside the box. And many people don't have that courage. They prefer to remain within the confines of their religion and things of that sort so that they can remain comfortable and not be criticized by others. It is extremely difficult to step outside the box and face the multiple attacks from others who probably will eventually call you crazy. So many who lack the courage, the necessary, how would I say, elasticity of the mind, are not going to take that step and remain closed off to those realities that are facing them constantly.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. It's interesting you say that because you mentioned that there's this lack of elasticity, to put it as you did, of the mind to be able to not necessarily accept a concept or an idea that fits outside their box of normal operation of their mind, but even just to entertain the idea that the reality is not quite how they perceive it is, for the most part, off limits or out of bounds for most people. And that's even just dealing with a lot of the topics that I do a lot on the radio, which is to do with the idea that the financial system is a usury system, debt-based, that it slaves humanity, these ideas of sodium fluoride in the water, or the idea that the government or people in power might not necessarily have your best interests at heart. I mean, even these topics, which are, of the material realm, are out of bounds for most people's minds. So I can imagine that topics of spirituality and our spiritual essence and heritage is completely so far out of bounds that most people, would shake their head and be unable to venture into that realm of mind space at all. But because you mentioned this in the Chronicles as well, I really wanted to nail this point down. You mentioned in the Chronicles as well, you mentioned learning and evolving and here to stay and learn. So you mentioned that in the Chronicles, you mentioned that here in the interview. Can I nail this down? What can you do it in a broad way? I don't know if you can, but what are we here to learn? What are we here to evolve? What's the point? What is the spiritual point? You call us spiritual beings. What is the point, Rubens? Because I'm looking for the point.
The point is very simple. It's learning.
Learning what, Rubens? What are we learning about, man? There's so many things to learn. What's the most important thing to learn?
But you just said there are so many things to learn. That's exactly the point. To learn those many things that escape us. There is really, in this realm, there is no mystery. However, there are so many things that are unknown to us that many things remain as mysteries to us. We have to learn those very things that we ought to become accustomed to. We ought to enlarge our understanding and have a better way of living. This planet is a planet that is reigned, controlled by a very small group of people. There are many other ways to live that are much more beneficial to the populace, so that they can live better. We have a system of enslavement here on this planet that ought to disappear altogether. We are not slaves to a group of others for their own benefit. We are children of the Creator, of God. We are very, very worthy beings who deserve more. We cannot remain in this world of darkness. Darkness is not our heritage. Light is divinity. A world of wonderful, divine experience. A world in which all of our children can live freely under the sun and be happy. A world where people don't have to be slaves to a work, a job. I'm not saying we shouldn't work. We should, but not at that rate, not at the constant pace that we are working towards. I don't even towards what? Towards enslavement, because you don't have time to spend with your children. Most parents their children are alien to them, and the children don't even know their parents. That is completely evil, meaning it is not of the light. It is not natural. It's not the norm. We ought to go back to a point where we can actually enjoy life. Life is really about enjoyment, not slavery, not misery. Poverty is a sin, something that is not normal. It doesn't have to be this way. We can change things. So those things are the things that we ought to learn to live better, to become a true human, not to be a slave of a system where you cannot really enjoy even your sleep because you have to wake up so early to go to work. Some people work 2 jobs, 3 jobs even. When do they sleep? How do they rest? When do they spend time with their children? When do they enjoy a social life with their relatives, their friends, others? That's what life is about. Enjoyment. It is our heritage. A very large number of people who don't even have a sense of what joy is. Life, true life of happiness. They don't know that. Those are the things that we ought to learn. We ought to change things so we can enjoy that. Be in the presence of our children. Teach them the better ways of life. Teach them to become children of God so they can see the magnificence of life itself. For life is magnificent. There is no darkness in the world itself, in and out of itself. The world has become dark due to man's enslavement, due to man's inability to understand the simplicity of life itself. To their own ignorance, they have allowed a group of people to control them. They have remained silent for a long time when they should have never done that. I understand some of them probably had a better life than other groups, because one of the things that the controllers do is to separate people among themselves. They have created a chaotic situation, and people don't really know where one begins and when another ends. They don't know what this is about. It's an extreme life of confusion that they have created for them. And it is now time to end this scenario. We cannot continue to live this way. This is not going anywhere but to a life of darkness, enslavement, doom. That is not part of what life is. We ought to change our ways so we can become the true humans that we have to become. True children of God. That is the point.
That is the point. Well, that summed up the question that I was asking you. So thank you for that. And I hear you speaking, and your words are full of inspiration and full of higher purpose. And for me, this is the type of people that we need to hear more from, because it seems like, for the most part, with so much, as you say, as you call it, darkness, and difficulty through the murkiness and haze of the difficult lives that many of us live in, through just trying to eke out some kind of existence through feeding our children, ourselves, paying our bills. It's very difficult to see the light at the end of this tunnel that seems to extend on into infinity. Now, we have to take a break at this stage. We're already coming up to the end of the first hour, if you can imagine. But Rubens, if you can stay with us, we're gonna take a quick break, and I want to explore more about how we can pull ourselves out of this mire. So we'll be right back in just a moment.